Hello friends, Worm here, day late and a dollar short, and today I wanted to talk about the changes to next season's revamped exotics, right? So Bungie, they released a little article, I want to say it's like yesterday or something like that, about some exotic armor changes, as well as some changes to this strand and stuff like that. But I wanted to talk about them, give my thoughts, and really see if these changes are actually going to shift the usage of these specific exotics here. And if not, let's, I mean, obviously we should talk about why and what we would have done differently to make them a little bit better. So let's get right into it. First off, we have hunters with Knucklehead Radar. By the way, in case you're wondering what I'm looking at over here, I have the list pulled up. There you go. So I'm not going to put it up on screen to save you the boringness of it, but yeah, that's what I'm looking at over here. But we have Knucklehead Radar. Functionality of Faux Tracer exotic helm has been completely removed from that exotic and added to Knucklehead Radar on top of its existing benefits. This is a change I would have never expected to happen, right? Like this is one, they basically took what Faux Tracer used to do, put it on Knucklehead Radar, and then they changed Faux Tracer entirely. And we're going to talk about Faux Tracer in just a second. But really, Knucklehead Radar is a difficult exotic to make work. Not to make work. You can definitely make it work. My boy Pat, who I've ran into several times in the game, literally never takes off Knucklehead Radar and his No Feelings scout rifle from that Scourge of the Past raid. At any rate, doesn't matter. Look, Knucklehead Radar, it's a PvP exotic. They gave it, I guess, a little bit more PvP functionality. That's pretty cool, and it kind of builds into the theme. So I guess it's an okay change. I would never use it. I've never really used it. I've never really used Faux Tracer. So combining the two, I guess maybe you'll see a little bit more usage out of Knucklehead Radar, because Faux Tracer users will go to Knucklehead Radar now. But let's talk about what they did to Faux Tracer as well. They took some cues from the popular monochromatic Maestro artifact perk. So that was a perk from, I think it was last season, where basically when you deal damage with an ability, you get a weapon boost. When you deal damage with the weapon, you get an ability boost, something like that. I'm not going to break down the whole exotic here. Again, that's not what I do. Like, I just talk about the changes. But this is a very interesting change, right? It's a very interesting change. Obviously, taking off the perk and adding it to Knucklehead Radar, very unique choice. But to bring back basically what was monochromatic Maestro into the current sandbox through an exotic is a very unique idea. I don't see it really swinging the usage of Faux Tracer very much anymore. Also, I think the name Faux Tracer is an odd choice now that they've taken off, the whole actual like tracking part of it, right? But I guess it's a good idea. Lots of players had lots of good things to say about Faux Tracer and about, or not Faux Tracer, I'm sorry, about monochromatic Maestro and whatnot, as well as that the ability to generate ionic traces, fire sprites, void breaches, stuff like that is also pretty cool. The one thing I want to know about Faux Tracer is when you use it with Strand, will it spawn a Tangle? Or will it, the Tangles be on like the Tangle cooldown? Because everything else, right, like ionic traces, you can spawn them as long as you can like have different methods of spawning them, right? Like obviously if they come from a specific fragment, for example, I don't remember the one, but the one that when you kill a jolted target, it makes an ionic trace. There's a cooldown on that, but there's not, but like if you're say using solar, right, and you get a solar kill and you get you kill a scorched enemy, or you get a melee kill, you make fire sprites, like can you make additional tangles? Probably not, but it would be really great to see a way to make more than just one tangle every 15 seconds. Sorry, 12 seconds next season. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So yeah, Faux Tracer, pretty neat idea, I guess. But let's move on to Lucky Raspberry. Now this one is a really, really big change, and the main thing that makes this change huge is the fact that Lucky Raspberry will now be able to stun overload grenades, or I'm sorry, overload champions, not overload grenades. But the ability to stun overload champions is a unique bit of functionality, because if I'm not mistaken, there is no exotic armor piece in the game that actually grants you a change to your champion stunning abilities, right? Like exotic weapons, yeah, we got like Wish Ender, which can do barriers. We got Ariana's Bow, which can do barriers and stuff like that. But I think Lucky Raspberry will be the first exotic that actually gives your abilities a functionality of anti-champion stunning capabilities. I think it's also interesting because, the grenade, you can set it up to jolt targets, which would jolt and then stun overload champions, right? I guess they wanted to skip the step of jolting. I don't know. It's a weird situation. But yeah, or maybe they said we've also given this grenade the intrinsic ability to stun overload champions. I don't know. I think it's an odd change, but nonetheless a good one. I think that Lucky Raspberry will definitely see some more play as we get higher up in the season, or not in the season, in the difficulty of the game. It'll see more usage in things like Grandmasters and stuff. Will it take the place of other arc builds? I don't really see it doing that. I mean, let's be honest. Assassin's Cowl Arc Hunters are insane, right? Like Assassin's Cowl is an insane exotic, so I don't know if it'll swing the needle. Sorry, I almost said radar and needle at the same time, but I don't know. I think it's a good change. It's a fun change, probably. So that's that. Finally, for hunters, the renewal grasps. They took back the cooldown nerf, which again, this is a huge deal. This is something that we've said many times before, that renewal grasps don't feel worth it because that grenade takes so long to cool down, right? So it's really great that they've just reverted that change. So renewal grasp will have the same cooldown as any other dust field grenade. Fantastic. On to Titans, and we've got a couple. We got a lot of Titan exotic changes here. The first four: Icefall Mantle, Doomfang Pauldrons, Path of Burning Steps, and Eternal Warrior. Basically, you can now get like those damage boosts that Eternal Warrior at one point had. And Eternal Warrior, basically when you ended your super, it would give you max stacks of your arc damage boost. Icefall Mantle, Doomfang, Pauldron, Burning Steps, they all get this through different means. So Icefall Mantle, when you activate your class ability, you immediately get the highest tier bonus. This is a big deal, because I feel like Icefall Mantle is going to be a lot more prevalent in the Crucible as well as PvE. Doomfang Pauldrons, they did the same thing, but when you get avoid melee kill, you immediately get the highest tier bonus. And then with Path of the Burning Steps, when you get a solar grenade kill, you will get the max stacks of the solar weapon damage boost. So yeah, I mean, they're good changes, I guess. Still don't like that Path of the Burning Steps was technically nerfed, into oblivion, because it used to get up to 40% more damage. We're going to continue on. Eternal Warrior as well, because activating your super, I'm sorry, not activating your super, but when your super ends, it gave you that tier 4 bonus. They felt like that was a little bit extreme because it takes a long time to get the super. So they've extended the duration of that weapon damage boost from 10 seconds to 30 seconds. So that's a huge buff right there. That they tripled the amount of time that you get when your super ends with that max arc damage bonus. So that's fantastic. And of course, you can keep it going by getting more kills, stuff like that. So on to the next one, ACD/0 feedback fence. This one, I'm not entirely but the way Bungie worded it feels really confusing. But I'll spare you the details. I don't really see it changing much. I mean, beforehand you'd get punched with them, or as you got melee kills, you'd build up charges, and when you got hit with the melee, it would reflect that energy back based on the number of charges, blah, blah, blah. They're basically doing like an armor charge system with it now. I don't know. I think this is a very odd change. I don't think that it's going to really move the needle for this at all. So, I mean, I guess great for changing it. Why didn't we get Mask of the Quiet One instead of ACD/0 feedback fence? I don't know, but whatever. And then finally, and this one's a little bit of a mystery, Hallowfire Heart. And this is the one I'm probably the most excited about. So, obviously, they said it's been overshadowed by a Heart of Inmost Light, which it has, let's be real. But they're changing this perk entirely so that it will allow you to build more into sunspots. What does that mean? We don't know. They didn't, go into details there. It seems like you're just going to be able to make more sunspots somehow. Maybe, I don't know, maybe standing in a sunspot will give you that 20% damage boost that it used to. I don't know. We'll have to see how it works. They took away the functionality that allowed you to have just a flat, faster cooldown on your abilities. However, when your super is fully charged, it will still do the same thing it does now. So this is an exciting change. I'm ready to see what it is / what it does, because I think Hallowfire Heart is an insanely good looking chess piece, but we'll have to see. This one's up in the air, excited, but I'm also kind of reserved. Like, I don't want to get too excited about it, you know, and I don't think you should either. Moving on though to Warlocks, we have 5 changes for Warlocks, starting with Astrocyte Verse. This is interesting because I really never thought that they would buff movement-based exotics, right? Like movement-based exotics like Dune Marchers, you know, like what is it? The Dune Marcher family, you know, each class has their own. I can't remember the names of them. Stompies and Transversive Steps. That's the ones. Never thought they would change movement-based exotics, and I've always viewed Astrocyte Verse as a movement-based exotic because it affects your blink. It makes your blink just basically better, right? They felt like that wasn't enough, so they're changing it to basically when you activate your blink, it will make nearby enemies volatile. That's pretty cool. And then if you have Nova Warp on, when you do the Dark Blink while in that super, it doesn't consume additional grenade energy. This is a huge change. Obviously, I would say probably not as big for PvE, but for PvP, you know, there's a big change. The ability to like make enemies volatile on command, you know, blink into a group of enemies and then blink right back out of it to make them all volatile. Really cool. But let's be honest. Let's be really honest here. Number one, who is using blink in PvE? I have never seen somebody use blink in PvE. No, that's probably overestimation. But you know, I don't ever remember seeing anybody use blink in PvE, right? And it feels like the change they made to where, like, you know, when you blink, nearby enemies, sorry, become volatile. Like that sounds gimmicky to me. Like it's cool, but in the Crucible, it's not gonna matter. Right? Because typically you're not blinking away from somebody, you're blinking towards somebody. Like that's what blink is. Like it is an aggressive movement style. You know, you blink so that you can literally shotgun somebody, right? Blink shotgun, you know, that's a old combo that's not as effective as it once was. But yeah, so PvE, don't see it being useful. And then same thing in PvE, like I don't see anybody using Nova Warp. You know, and yeah, like the Dark Blink is really, like, it's nice that it doesn't consume super energy. But at the same time, again, who even uses Nova Warp? I don't even see Nova Warp in the Crucible. Like Nova Bomb is just better in the Crucible, right? So while this is a neat little thing they did here, I don't see this really increasing the usage at all. But moving on to Geomag Stabilizers, this one's kind of exciting. Basically, they've made it so that when you pick up Ionic Traces, you will get additional super energy on top of its, you know, its effects it already has. I don't know. We'll have to see how much super energy you get. Is it going to be something insane, like, you know, 4 or 5% super energy per Ionic Trace? That would be really high. Are they going to make it absolutely busted and give like 10, you know, or 15%? Because that'd be crazy. I don't think it'll go that high. I think probably maybe like 4 or 5%, which I still think is a lot, especially because on Arc Warlock you can generate 1 billion freaking Ionic Traces. But this is definitely an exciting change to see. I think that Geomag Stabilizers will obviously be more prevalent. I think the issue is I don't see Chaos Reach being used very much. I don't use it because I think that's the roaming super is better. I don't know though. We'll have to see. Wings of Sacred Dawn. Basically, it will now reload your solar weapons when you get kills. Reload your solar weapons from reserves when you get kills. Again, don't see this moving it very much. I mean, let's be honest. I don't see anybody really ever using Wings of Sacred Dawn anyways. And I don't think that it's because, oh, well, you know, like it sucks to have to reload. Like, I don't think that's the reason why nobody uses it. I think the reason nobody uses it is because it's just not that great. You know, in PvE, you're literally a sitting duck. And if there's snipers, you're dead in 2 seconds. And yes, I know you get like a 40% damage resistance or whatever it is. That's great and all. I still don't see it, you know, changing very much about this exotic, you know. And then PvP, same thing. Like you're up in the air, you literally have 0 cover. I don't know, very odd change, but I guess, hey, whatever. Like, you know, building into the whole orbital weapons platform, as they put it, their words, not mine. And then finally, Winter's Guile. They're basically making it synergize with stasis. You know, before, every time you get a melee kill, it'd give you a stacking melee damage boost up to 300% more melee damage for 5 seconds. Basically, it didn't really work with the Penumbral Blast because you activate Penumbral Blast, it would just freeze an enemy instead of actually like killing them. So they are making it so that whenever you are playing on stasis, the combatants will now automatically shatter after a short delay. I guess that's cool. I mean, Winter's Guile, Worm God's Curse, I don't see those being used ever, really. So, I don't know. I guess we'll just have to see. But yeah, that's it for the exotic changes. Overall, there are a couple that I'm like pretty hyped for, you know, Hallowfire Heart, Geomag Stabilizers, and then up for here for the Hunter, Lucky Raspberry. I think these are going to be the three most exciting changes, but the rest of it, I really don't see them switching the needles very much on how much usage they get. Renewal Grass, I take that back. Renewal Grass will see more usage in the Crucible. That's a fact. That's a fact. But and then they do strand changes here. Or I'm sorry, ability changes. I will give you the TLDR and my thoughts on them. Towering Barricade now has a base cooldown of 70 seconds instead of 48. That's a huge nerf. Also, they reduced the health from 600 to 500. They increased damage resistance in PvE combatants to compensate for that. But that's, I mean, that's a huge change. I know that a lot of the PvP community have complained about Titan's Barricade, Towering Barricade particularly. Personally, I never had an issue with it. I don't use it. When I'm on my Titan, I'm playing Arc and I'm using Thruster. I never had an issue with it. I think it's fairly easy to counter in most situations, but I guess that is what it is. They're not changing the Bastion cooldown at all, though. So Bastion's not getting buffed or nerfed. Not getting buffed, unfortunately. But then Thunder Crash is also, they're increasing the tier. You know, we have tier 1 through 5 supers. Thunder Crash, I want to say, used to be at a tier 3. They're moving it to like a tier 4, tier 5, basically giving it a longer passive cooldown. And then this is the big one. Knockout's damage increase is being reduced. So it used to give you an additional 50 damage. So basically when you punch somebody, you deal 150 damage. Now it will only deal 130 damage. I guess that's okay. Honestly, I mean, it is what it is. I think that most situations you're still going to get one-tapped by a Titan because they pair them with shotguns, and shotguns deal a lot of damage. 130 damage should be plenty more than enough to clean you up, but hey, you know what? We'll see. Moving on to Strand, they're nerfing Suspend heavily. Now, here's the funny thing about this. I totally expected them to nerf Abiant Leap or the Dringer's Lash aspect because they said it has too much uptime, right? They're not doing that. No, instead they are reducing the suspend duration for against non-champion PvE combatants from 8 seconds down to 5, so they'll only be suspended for 5 seconds. Threat of Continuity down now only extends the duration to 7 seconds, so it gives you an additional 2 seconds. Wow. Anyways, yeah. Down from 12. That's a big nerf. And then base suspend duration versus champions went from 8 seconds to now 3 seconds or 4 seconds with threat of continuity. That's a huge nerf. That's probably one of the biggest nerfs I think that has happened to Strand as champions. You cannot like infinitely suspend champions anymore. I guess it needed to happen. I liked that it was the fun factor of doing it, but it needed to happen, I guess. So it is what it is. And then increased snap damage dealt to suspended boss combats by 67%. I don't know what snap damage is, so I don't even know if that's a good or bad thing. Threat of Mind. Threat of Mind was basically when you would get super energy whenever you kill a suspended target. They've reduced the amount of energy you're getting from various targets. Minor combatants only 10% now, major combatants only 15%, and then champions, bosses, mini bosses, you only get 25%. The old numbers, I'll just pull them up on screen. You can pause it if you want to look at them, zoom in on them, whatever. But yeah, big nerf to that too. Threat of Generation, this is the aspect that as you dealt damage, you'd get more energy back, more grenade energy back, sorry. They reduced the overall energy gain per instance of damage by 20%, so definitely not going to be able to get your shackle grenades back as fast. They also change it so that your precision weapons get more of an effect than automatic weapons, because before literally any damage you dealt would give you more grenade energy. So if you just started stacking Osteostriga, the damage ticks plus the actual damage from that, and then you say you did, I don't know, scorched them or something like that, which obviously can't really scorch unless you have a solar weapon with incandescent, but it would all contribute to giving you more and more grenade energy. They've just reduced that so that it's not as effective. There are some buffs here though, so it's not all bad for Strand. The big one here that I see, increased threadling damage to PvE combatants by 30%. That's a big old buff. That's a good thing. Needed to happen. I would have almost said 50% would have been more appropriate, but whatever. Tangles, they reduced the cooldown of Tangles from 15 to 12. This is nothing new. They said they were going to do it. And Sever, they've further reduced the amount of outgoing damage that PvE combatants can do when they're under the effects of Sever. It was 30%, so they dealt 30% less damage. Now they will deal 40% less damage, so that's a big buff there. We've also got some buffs to some specific supers and aspects, stuff like that. Silk Strike damage resistant was increased to 45%, up from 40. Definitely needed to happen because you can absolutely crap on a Silk Strike in the Crucible like instantly. They reduced the suppression time between Silk Strike super air attacks, so I guess I don't really know what that means. But they reduced the vertical lift provided by Silk Strike heavy attack to reduce instances of missing the primary target. This happened several times when I'd use it. If you were even like this much in the air, right? If you were this much in the air and you activate that heavy attack, the heavy attack would just go over the top of enemies. So yeah, that's good. Needed to happen. Threaded Spectres getting some changes. They increased Threaded Spectre's lifetime to 12 seconds, now up from 10. They've also increases the health versus PvE combatants. And Threaded Spectre now takes longer to detect nearby PvE combatants at the beginning of his lifetime. So basically, it now won't instantly detonate when you dodge backwards, right? Because that was one of the big things. Like if you were near a bunch of enemies, you would dodge, and you didn't have very long to get away from the combat situation that you were in before it would detonate. So that's a good buff there too. PvE combatants now more consistently focus on Threaded Spectre instead of the Hunter that leaves it, and allied players no longer have reticle magnetism toward Threaded Spectre. Fantastic, because that was super annoying when somebody would do a Threaded Spectre, and you know, as a controller player, you get like, you know, that like stickiness over it, and then your bullets would also kind of have a tendency to go towards that instead of PvE enemies. We also have some changes to the Wanderer. Destroying a Tangle, not just picking up and throwing, but destroying a Tangle now creates a delayed suspension detonation. This is a big deal for those of y'all who never have used the Wanderer. Basically, when you create a Tangle, you can throw it, it'll stick to an enemy, and after a couple seconds or however long, it will detonate into a suspending blast. That is a really, really good deal. The problem was, in high-level activities, it's very difficult to get one of those Tangles, right? You have to run out in the open, pick it up, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, they made it where if you shoot it, it will now do the same thing. They also increased the suspend detonation radius from 6 to 7 meters, so it now affects further. Great. And then increase thrown Wanderer Tangle detonation damage to match standard Tangle detonations. I guess that Wanderer Tangles did not deal as much damage as they should. Grapple melee will always take priority while active. That's fantastic. No complaints there. Threaded propagation. This is the one that gives you what is it? Hold on. Oh, this is a threaded propagation. This is the one that gives you unraveling rounds when you get a melee ability kill. It now gives you plus 10 strength. Totally makes sense. Continuity now no longer grants 10% strength. That didn't make sense to me in the first place. But hey, great. Threaded continuity, that is the one that actually extends the duration of sever and suspend, stuff like that. Thread of Wisdom no longer requires precision kill to activate. Thread of Wisdom, that's the one where when you got a precision kill against a suspended target, it would make a orb of power. I guess a decent change. Thread of Isolation, they reduced the number of precision hits required to activate it by an average of about 30%. Varies by weapon type. This is fantastic because Thread of Isolation it took a long time to get that sever effect. Thread of Isolation, of course, being the fragment that's when you land multiple rapid precision hits, it would sever the targets. And then Thread of Rebirth. Big change here. The number of threadlings now increases based on the tier of the target defeated. Thread of Rebirth is when you get strand weapon kills, it has a chance to make a threadling. Minor combatants, 1 threadling. Elites, combatants or players, 2 threadlings. And then boss champions or mini bosses, 3 threadlings. So yeah, that's pretty good. They're also fixing Celestial Fires, Scorch not activating melee base perks like Sunbracer. So that's it. I mean, mainly, you know, back up here one more time to the exotics. There's only 3, 1 for each class that I'm really thinking are going to be exciting. Well, I guess you can say 2 for Hunter because Renewal Grasps as well. But I don't know. Overall, disappointing in the Warlock category for sure. I mean, when you sit down and think about it, Geomax Stabilizers is great, but everything else pretty disappointing. For the Titan, Icefall Mantle sounds like it's going to be pretty cool. Doomfang Pauldron, never really been bad, but never really a top tier option, so I guess that's cool. I don't know. They're okay. I would have liked to see more. I would have liked to see Mask of the Quiet One in there, and Apotheosis Veil. I know Apotheosis Veil. Who remembers that one, right? But whatever. I guess we got to get what we get. Don't throw a fit. Let me know your thoughts, of course, on these changes that they're making. They're okay. That's what I think. Tell me what you think in the comments. Like the video if, of course, you enjoyed it. Subscribe for more daily Destiny content. Do me a favor. Watch the videos you see on the end screen because for whatever reason, YouTube thinks you'll like them. Guys, I'll see y'all next time.